Hi, I'm Mike Duggan. I've been teaching restorative dentistry for over 32 years now and to over 6,000 dentists. This video shows how I do it. Real-time, mannequin-based, hands-on, point of view, and patient real. If you are a pre-dental student, an aspiring teacher, an international dentist, join me at Duggan Oral Design, DugganOralDesign.com. All right, so you see I have some variability in the electric handpiece as far as the speed's concerned. Okay, so right now your wall height's pretty good right there. Your position's not bad. I'd probably go a little bit more parallel to the oblique ridge right here.
Do you lean the burr towards the oblique ridge?
It's not as necessary as it is on a premolar because of the direction of the enamel rods.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not such an important thing. Okay, now get your clearance way out here and come in 90 degrees and way over here and come in 90 degrees. Just make sure you're happy with that whole form before you try to go gingerly, but you got the pulpal floor in the right position, so that's a good start. And then I'll demonstrate the DO before you do the DO a little bit later. Okay.
Check number 13 MO?
Later on, yeah, I will. Yep. Okay. All right. Yeah, so what's the first thing I'm going to do?
It's a disaster.
So the first thing I'm going to do is state that it's a disaster. I think I could be more productive than that, or more helpful than that. So what is the disaster, you think?
The proximal box, there is no gingival seat. It went way beyond.
Sure there is.
Okay. The part slipped towards the lingual. It damaged the adjacent and the exit angle.
Okay. So basically, what do you think I should do to help you fix this? I mean, if you're going to restore this with amalgam, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So what should I do to help you fix it? What would I do next? What would I do immediately?
I don't think we can restore it.
Oh, you have to. It's a patient.
No. Get back the natural tooth that was there. So maybe contour the exit angle a little bit more.
Which exit angle?
The lingual one that's damaged.
Okay. At what level should I do it?
Sorry?
At what level should I do it?
At the level of achieving a 90-degree.
Yeah, but at what occlusal level? Should I try to fix the whole lingual wall? Or should I just fix the occlusal part of it first?
First the occlusal part.
Yes, yep. Just the way we do preps normally. And be careful, you're leaning your burr lingually here.
Yeah.
So check this way first to make sure you have the burr vertical. Then we're going to try to start from your margin. At the pulpal floor level, we're going to try to identify where the margin actually is. Then we're going to cut another angle inward. But just at the level of the pulpal floor. We always do the occlusal outline first. Then when we're happy with that, then we extend gingerly from there. Okay, so there's where the margin has to end up. There's a 90-degree angle. We still have a little damage up here, but I'll ignore that for right now. Then we cut in far enough, we make a smooth curve to join the isthmus. So now we find the corner of the box, right about here. Use the 55 burr for that. So find the corner, cut this way away from that wall.
Sorry, I need to chip that piece off, right?
Yeah, cut this way away from that wall, down at the gingival level, and then get rid of all the excess on the lingual margin to match the gingival part to the occlusal part. That's what we always do. when we make any corrections, we always correct the occlusal part of the wall first. Then we take that correction down to the gingival level. You can use a 55 burr, but that's where we're going to make a new corner. They're going to cut. Their axial should be going this direction. Now over here on the facial side, your facial exit angle is pretty close to 90, maybe a little bit acute. Probably should have been a little more like this coming in. But then the corner should have been about right here. Again, look this direction so you know where the corners are. And that'll help you avoid going too deep gingially. Now, don't go any deeper gingially. Right now your clearance is about 0.8. Should have been just about 0.5. Your wall height here is pretty tall, isn't it? So your occlusal outline, you should have had just 1.5 millimeters wall height right here. So I'm going to just illustrate what that looks like. So I could have put the wall in this location, but had it just 1.5 millimeters tall. So right now your pulpal floor is 1 millimeter deeper than where mine is right here.
Okay.
Okay. A lot of times people go too deep gingially when they've gone too deep pulpally, just because they don't want to get a short axial wall, but that's more common on the Kilgore instead of on an accidental. So anyway, 55 burr, see what you can do to finish up this whole lingual side and get it back in shape again.
Okay.
But define those internal line angles. The more you define them, the more things are going to be in control. Okay? All right.
I just started.
Oh, okay. We'll take a look. Okay, so you're going to do the DO over here. That'll be fine. Now, you're out of control as far as the angulation of the burr. See that?
Yeah.
You have the burr leaning like this.
Yeah.
That's not even close to vertical, is it? Look how much you're leaning your burr toward the distal. And so your pulpal floor is really deep in the middle and really shallow over here. And you've already way overextended. You're forcing yourself to put the lingual margin here, whereas it should have been here.
Oh, okay.
So you're not getting anywhere near the middle of the contact with the adjacent tooth. So again, keep the burr vertical this way, keep the burr vertical this way. Look so that you can see where you are relative to the marginal ridge. You can see how tall the wall is here, 1.5 millimeters tall. Keep the burr vertical when you come back through the isthmus, and then cut right through the middle of the contact. So keep the pulpal floor level the same, all the way from the dovetail all the way here to the middle of the contact. Now, if you're going to find the lingual margin, at this point you cut lingually like this. Again, notice the burr is vertical this direction. And then you're going to go lingually a little bit at a time until you get just the right amount of clearance. Then from there, you can cut straight in and adjust the angle until it's 90 degrees, something like this. So that's where the lingual wall would connect to the isthmus right here. But you see, you're already way overextended beyond that. So that's where you needed to be careful. And then a lot of that happened because you didn't have the burr anywhere near vertical. Now find the facial margin out here, come in 90 degrees, make a smooth curve to join the isthmus. Ultimately, we're going to ignore this area and we're going to ignore this area over here. Clinically, I'd have to move the margin way out here in order to get rid of this part of the enamel that's damaged here. But we'll kind of ignore that for what we're learning how to do now. Okay?
Yeah.
Keep going. Oh, okay. Okay, so you're going to do the DO over here. MO here is fine. Okay. So you're going gingerly, but you really don't have the occlusal outline done the way we'd like to have it done. I'd like to have it done more completely. So make sure you're really happy with the occlusal part. So at the oblique ridge, your wall's pretty shallow here. You're a little more than 1 millimeter. Your isthmus width is pretty wide,
Okay.
but let's also get the distal wall shifted a little bit more distally, a little more beyond the pit. And if we have the wall in the right place, make sure it's the right height. Now that I've gone distally a little bit more, the wall is taller. So pulpal
I
corp.
thought I was a little too deep into the oblique ridge, and that's why I stopped there.
Okay, remember, a third of the distance between the pit and the top of the oblique ridge.
Yeah.
So this is probably a little bit closer to that. So I've included the pit a little bit more centered on the dovetail. The pit was about here originally. Okay, so look this way when you're coming along the central groove. So make sure you're controlling the width. We're going to get a little closer to the adjacent tooth at this stage, and then make sure that we have a lingual margin defined as clearly as we can with a little bit of clearance, and then get the 90-degree exit angle coming in. Then join the isthmus. Okay, so right now, it's not very smooth, but it's close to 90. Find the margin, find the angle, get the length, make the curve, then you can find the corner, and then go gingerly. Over here, you got a little bit of an obtuse angle, but you got this excess here. If I can clean that up a little bit, it makes it easier to see exactly where the corner of the box should be. Now you can cut away from each of those walls and get an axial wall of the right shape, and then go gingerly until you get the clearance. Okay, the only thing that made it awkward was you overextended facially in your isthmus. So make sure you're looking this way so you know where you're putting the facial and lingual walls. Okay, keep going. Okay, so do the DO there and the MO. Where are you doing the MO?
No, so actually I got confused. I started like this.
No,
I did an
that's an
MO.
MO. Why is it not in here anymore?
No, I just changed.
Okay, so which MO are you going to do?
I'll do 3 MO.
Okay, and they're going to do the DO on 14. Okay, I'm glad you're not trying to do the MO on 14. Just look at all that damage on the adjacent tooth.
No, that's what I did. I did.
Oh, I see. You
yeah.
damaged it when you did this one over
Yeah.
here. Okay. So that means in order to do another one of the same preps, you'd have to replace 13, and I haven't checked that homework prep yet.
And
Okay, so,
13.
but again, you started a prep here, and, that's not that bad as far as I can tell. So why did you change it?
Because there was DO on.
This is an MO. Okay, that's what we're doing now, the MO. So why'd you change it?
I thought that the curvature got more wide in the middle.
Well, maybe, but if you do this on a patient, are you going to tell the patient to go home?
No.
Right? You got to keep going. So now the biggest problem with this prep is actually the damage on the adjacent tooth. That's the biggest problem with this MO over here. But yeah, I would encourage you to not stop in the middle. Okay? Just make sure you finish each prep that you start, and that's going to be a better thing. All right, so anyway, we'll put that aside for now and then start on 3. All right?
MO or DO, anything.
MO. Just like we're doing now. Okay. So the big problem is still the axial depth, but nothing you can do about that, right? So just remember, when you're looking in this direction, you can see where you are axially. So you can see the difference between this and this, right? As long as you're looking in that direction. Now, are you trying to make a groove here?
Yeah.
With what burr?
The thin one.
By thin one, you mean?
I used this one, diamond.
Okay, well, that's not thin enough, and that's not the burr we talked about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we use a burr...
I used the burr we used yesterday to bevel the gingival margin for composite. I'm not sure about the number.
Okay.
But I couldn't handle it, like I was
Remember,
getting dots.
before we use the burr, we use the hand instruments.
Yes, yes.
You have to learn how to make a groove with the hand instruments first. So we're not using burrs yet.
Okay.
Okay, use the hand instrument, then the instrumented groove will guide the burr when you're using the burr. But remember we talked about the quarter round burr? That's the burr you want to use. That's this one right here. Look how tiny that is. See over there?
I'm not getting that in my
See over there?
So
See over there?
yeah,
There it is, right there.
it's nice and handy.
Okay, just
Can
use the hand
I show you
instrument.
the bars that they are providing us, and with that I have
Hold on a minute though. But just make sure that you use the hand instrument first.
Okay.
That's what guides the burr, whatever burr you're going to use. Okay, I'll let you show me that a little bit later. I need to finish my pass, then I'll come back. All right. So anyway, I'll be demonstrating the DO in just a few minutes. But in the meanwhile, see if you can use hand instruments and make some retentive grooves. You got pretty big walls facial lingually. Try to make some retentive grooves with a hand instrument. Get that skill down. Okay. So you're kind of slipping around. You're not getting the depth pulpily that you want. So we're going to make this wall a lot taller. See, right now your wall's less than half the burr, isn't it? So why don't you go pulpily farther? Let's go pulpily farther. So I got some oil in your handpiece. It's okay. Yeah. Okay, so that's where I want the dovetail. The location distally, I want it about right here. And I want that wall about just a little bit less than the height of the burr. Then the central groove would come through like this. At this level, all the way to the middle of the contact. Middle of the contact's right here. Now, what about the facial margin? How do you go gingival if you don't have a facial margin? So, at this level, we come all the way to the middle of the contact. And then we go out here until we get a facial margin where we know we're going to have some clearance. So that would be a good place for the margin. Then from there, we cut inward at a 90-degree angle. And adjust that angle until it's nice and flat and 90 degrees, perpendicular to the surface. So now we've got the facial wall of the box. You did not. So until you have the facial wall and the lingual walls of the box, then don't try to do anything more than that. On the lingual, there's the margin. Here's a 90-degree angle. Then we join the isthmus. Okay, now, I'm not sure why you cut so much right in this area, but now we're ready to go gingivally with the axial wall about right here and about right over here. But looking the way I am, I can see exactly how close I am to the adjacent tooth, right? So then you're never going to hit the adjacent tooth, but you have a lot of damage on the adjacent tooth already. Okay, so use your 55 burr, use those corners and drop gingivally until you get gingival clearance. But move along now. Okay. Okay. All right, so let's blow a little dust off. So if I look at it this way, what am I paying attention to that's most disturbing here?
I think it's tilting lingually.
By tilting, what do you mean?
The facial wall is tilting lingually. So there's an undercut.
Well, can you see the facial wall?
Yeah.
So I'm looking down the axis. If you can see the facial wall, it's not undercut. Can you see the lingual wall?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the link. Yeah.
So if you see them both at the same time, what do you have?
It's converging.
Convergent gingivally or divergent occlusally. Okay? So anything that's divergent occlusally for amalgam is a failing prep, right? The amalgam is just going to fall out.
Yeah.
Now look at the angle that you used for your burr right here. This would be vertical. You lean the burr way over like that on the lingual side, right? That's what you have to be careful about. So we're always making sure you check the vertical angle so you know it's vertical before you start doing the prep. Okay, so to fix this, I'd have to move this lingual margin way out here. But again, with the burr more vertical, and I still haven't gotten to your margin up here on the occlusal. When you lean it out like that, your lingual margin went from here way over to here. But I've got it looking a little bit better. And then, but again, you know, practice keeping the burr vertical, then come down the corner. And then match the gingival part to the occlusal part. Again, making sure the burr is vertical. So you see, I'm always checking to make sure that the burr is vertical, facial-lingually, before I do anything here. Okay, now on the facial side, again, you're leaning the burr facially. So that's kind of hard to do unless you're trying to do it by looking from the lingual. Okay. And then you're going to lean facially because everybody tends to lean the burr away from their eye. If you just look in the same direction all the time and check this way to make sure it's vertical, much safer, much less likely to get a divergent prep. Find the margin, find the angle, get the length, make the curve. Then you can find the corner of the box exactly where you want it. Then you can get the shape of the axial exactly the way you want it. Okay, and again, start with the new burr every prep. Alright, so you're getting just a little bit of gingival clearance. When you keep the burr more vertical, then your gingival floor will be a little bit flatter and more horizontal, and then you'll probably get a more uniform clearance, and then you'll be in good shape. Okay, so you can finish that one up, and then I'll do the demo on the DO in just a minute or two. Okay? Okay. Okay, what is the DO over here? Okay. So, yeah, I'd want to have the dovetail look a little bit more like a foot. So, a little bit more of a defined heel. So a little more definition of heel. Yours looks more like a banana than a foot. So a heel here, toe here. And then your wall is really tall. It should be about like this, so you're very deep pulpally. So as you're working in this area and you have the wall, the distal wall in the right location, make sure it's just 1.5 millimeters tall. That'll give you a much better result. Okay? So this is closer to 1.5. You're about 2.5. Alright, so your exit angles tend to be obtuse, especially this one. So again, you can always recut these angles. Keep adjusting. If you want amalgam prep, keep adjusting those angles until you're happy with the 90-degree angle. Nice, long, straight wall, free margin in, long enough, then go join the isthmus. Then you can find the corner of the box a little bit more easily. That'll start to get you the shape of the axial wall a little bit better. But you went pretty deep pulpally, huh? Or axially. So make sure you're looking along this way whenever you're working in the box so you know where you are axially. You know the difference between this and this. And you also know how close you are to the adjacent tooth. Now, there's a lot of damage down there gingivaly. See that? How'd that happen? Not sure?
Just try to shape it with the instrument, so
Okay.
I really just
So you chipped off some of the gingival margin. Yeah, use this burr to make sure the gingival floor is flat all the way through the margin, so you don't have any excess at the margin. If you make sure you have no excess, then when you use the hand instrument, it won't break and chip. If you have excess because you haven't used the burr enough on the gingival margin, then when you use the hand instrument, it chips and breaks, and then you have bevels and awkward things like that. Okay, so anyway, you could practice looking this way so you know where you are axially, and that's a big thing to do.
was
Right.
this a better one than this?
I don't know, because this one I never saw in the arch. But you can look at the banana and the foot thing. Tell me about that. But yeah, the pulpal depth, the axial wall position, the axial wall position over here, obviously it's much nicer. Okay, so the gingival floor is much better. But again, make sure you're really happy with the occlusal outline. Then when you go gingivally, it's much easier to control, but make sure you're looking this way so you know where you are. Okay? All right. I'll be demonstrating the DO in just a few minutes, but get rid of the excess on the lingual wall and then use your hand instruments to place retina grooves where I put the axial wall on both of those sides. Okay? How do you like this handpiece?
I think it's much controlled.
Much easier to control?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's on the hand, yes.
Okay, so you're kind of short right here, huh?
Okay.
So again, make sure you get the pulpal floor position as fast as you can. So with the 330 burr, I would have gone deeper pulpally from the beginning, and then make sure you get the distal wall exactly in the right place. And then go back and forth parallel to the oblique ridge. Get the wall height you want. Get the wall height you want. So now we have the wall height and we have a little bit more conservative dovetail shape. Then we're going to come through here at the same level all the way to the middle of the contact. Don't let the pulpal floor rise as it approaches the adjacent tooth. Then the walls get too short facially lingually.
Yeah.
When they get really short, it's really easy to overextend. So right to the middle of the contact. Then you can come out facially and lingually and find your margins. So you probably want the facial margin about here. About there. Now let's do one thing. Yeah. So I just turned out the light so that you don't have two sources of light at the same time. But look, so you can see exactly how close you are to the adjacent tooth. And then move the margin wherever you want to. But you didn't have to go as far out as you did here, but you went too far because you let the pulpal floor get really shallow here.
Yeah.
And then the wall got really short, and then we have a short wall. It's really easy to overextend. You do the same thing over here. Find the pulpal floor position, and then at the same level, extend out to find your margins. And let the wall get taller. A taller wall is going to be much safer when you start cutting inward and so forth. Okay? Then your outline form is going to make it much easier when you go gingerly. Okay, so see how much easier it's going to be now that we have a taller wall and a cleaner wall?
Yeah.
Over here. And your wall's sort of disappearing as you get to the occlusal because you're not keeping the same pulpal floor level all the way out. Okay, so see if you can go a little bit farther facially at this pulpal floor level here and then recut inward at a 90-degree angle. Get a much taller wall. It's going to be much safer. Okay? All right.
Number 3.
Okay, well, I haven't demonstrated this one yet, but you're actually pretty close and you've seen it before,
I
so
forgot about demo.
no complaint on that. Yeah, I just haven't had a chance to. I was waiting for everybody to pretty much finish, but you get a little bit ahead. But you'll notice on the board that I wrote down that you'll be doing the DO on the opposite side of the arch.
I did not notice that.
Okay, that's why I wrote it on the board.
Just like I forgot about the demo part.
Yeah, and don't forget, we don't want damaged teeth here. Okay.
Yeah, perhaps it's from the other. I didn't change that tooth.
Yeah, we're going to work on 4 quadrants today, so change 15, and then you can do the DO on 14. But your MO is coming along. We looked at that a little bit before. No retentive groove over here. No retentive groove over here.
Put them.
Yeah, except for there's no retentive groove there. So rubbing the hand instrument on the tooth is not the goal. The goal is to actually rub it on the tooth until you actually get a retentive groove that works mechanically. Okay, you're probably, yeah, you're okay over here. But in it, go ahead and put your retentive grooves in here. You got nice corners that you can use with the hand instruments to define them. Now this isn't a retentive groove.
It's not?
Well, we don't want it coming all the way to the occlusal. You only want the retentive groove in dentin.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, only to dentin. That's what we've been doing.
So only within the box,
Yeah, only in dentin. So if I move the margin out faithfully and recut that wall,
right? Still there.
yeah, won't be for long. Okay. But then you're pretty close as far as cutting along the oblique ridge. You want to make sure you use the 330 burr so this wall stays 1.5 millimeters from here into there and the back here. That wall should all be 1.5 millimeters tall. You're a little bit tall, so you're a little bit overextended pulpally. Lingual clearance, not enough yet. You need to get the 0.5 millimeter clearance. We can get rid of the rest of the retentive groove by making a nice internal line angle for the box right here, and then getting rid of the excess along that facial wall, make a flat wall all the way down to the gindule. Now you're ready to make a retentive groove over here, but use a hand instrument first. You have a gindule bevel, and so that probably happened when you sort of broke away the excess tooth structure at the gindule margin. Yeah, so that's why we don't leave so much excess. If you leave a lot of excess and you try to break it off with a hand instrument, of course it's going to break. And then you're going to end up with damaged margins or a bevel that you don't intend.
It's very technique to use a hand instrument so we don't break it.
Yeah, it's just what I said.
Hey, okay, don't repeat it.
Yeah, well, just make sure that you don't have any excess at the gindule margin. So use the burr first. Make sure you have a flat gindule floor all the way to the margin. It's really nice and flat all the way to the margins. Then you can use the hand instrument. You don't have to worry about breaking anything. There's just no excess there to break. You're just going to angle the gindule floor is all you have to do. Anyway, get some more lingual clearance. Come out here and then recut that angle inward, then join the isthmus over here. Okay, so the main thing was to a little bit too deep pulpally, but make sure you finish the gindule floor really well all the way to the margin before you try to use hand instruments. All right, cool.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to look at doing the DO over here on number 14. So where do I start? Right in the middle of the contact, facial lingually. I look this way so I know I have the burr close to the adjacent tooth. And I drill a hole about the depth of the burr. And then I do what we always do. Move the margin. until we get clearance, with the burr as close as I can get it to the adjacent tooth. A little more. So notice I'm doing trial and error. I do a little bit, looking this way, and then I check to see how much clearance I'm going to get. I'm going to get a little bit more. So take your time, make sure you have the clearance that you want. Now I'm going to go facially the same way, trial and error, right next to the adjacent tooth. Until I get the margin exactly where I want it. Okay, so now I know I'm going to have clearances facial-lingually. Now I'm going to cut the angles. So for amalgam, I'll cut a 90-degree angle. Right now it's clearly obtuse, so I'm going to change it. And still a little bit obtuse. I'm going to change it again. Notice I'm always cutting from the outside in. Still a little bit obtuse. Outside in. Okay, just a little bit different. Okay, I'll stop there. Now let's do the facial side. And again, at first we're going to get an angle that's a little bit obtuse if we're being fairly conservative about things. Then I'll change it until I get 90 degrees if I'm doing an amalgam prep. Okay, that's pretty close to 90. Get the length. So again, find the margin, get the angle, get the length. Now I want to cut from here. I want to cut along the oblique ridge. I've got a couple pits to include. But when I do it, I'm going to be looking along the oblique ridge. Let me get the mirror a little bit cleaner here. So I use the mirror to help me look in the right direction. And the right direction is parallel to the oblique ridge, just like this. So I'm going to start right here. And I'm going to cut away from my eye. So I'm looking in the direction that I want to cut, and I'm cutting away from my eye. So obviously I'm cutting in the right direction. Did you get that? I am looking in the direction that I want to cut. I'm cutting away from my eye. So therefore, by definition, I'm cutting in the right direction. Okay? Seems pretty simple, doesn't it? Conceptually, it's simple. It's just a matter of doing it. So I'm going to start in the facial wall here. I'm going to follow the oblique ridge by looking in the right direction. I'm going to get rid of the excess over here. Flatten the pulpal floor a little bit. Make sure these walls are 1.5 millimeters tall in the shortest areas here. So there's the basic occlusal outline that we're going to get for an upper molar DO. So now let's go gingerly with a 55 burr, the same way we always do. So nothing new. We go gingerly the same way in all 4 quadrants. Make sure we're always looking parallel to the contact, downward at a 45-degree angle. Make sure the burr is vertical. Put the burr against this wall, cut gingerly right here. And cut away from that wall, same thing from the facial side. Now notice there's always one wall I can't see. The wall that's closest to the mirror you can't see. Okay, but I can see where I am axially, and I can see how close I am to the adjacent tooth. That's what I really need to see, right? So don't get all excited trying to see a wall that you really don't need to see, because you've done the top half of it already and you're happy with that. Just let the wall guide you when you go gingerly. Now I'm going to remove the excess along the lingual wall here. I'm going to move the excess along the face wall here, match the gingival part of the wall to the occlusal part of the wall. Now I'm going to remove the excess in the middle. Nothing new here. This is what we always do. These are the 7 steps. Now I'm getting a little gingival clearance. I could smooth everything out a little bit, get rid of this little step over here on the lingual. And smooth the gingival floor all the way to the margin, knowing that I'm not damaging the margin because I can see how close I am to the adjacent tooth. I know I'm not damaging the adjacent tooth. Okay, so now let's go ahead and use the hand instruments. I'll just trim a little bit more off of this lingual margin right here. Okay, now I can use the hand instruments and finish it up. So on the upper left, I think actually this is, I think I gave away my hoe this morning. Let's see if I can borrow somebody's hoe. I'm sorry, I need to borrow somebody's enamel hatchet. There it is. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to turn the patient to the right a little bit so it's easy to get the enamel hatchet onto the facial margin and down that facial. Notice I'm looking down the wall when I use it, so I know I'm getting the right exit angle at the facial margin all the way down to the gingival, and then I'm going to use it to sharpen the internal angle a little bit too. But again, make sure the instrument's perpendicular to the surface of the tooth. The only way you're going to know that is by looking down the wall in the mirror. Down the margin, down the corner. Okay, now I'm going to use the hoe, which fits against the axial wall like this, to further sharpen the corner, but also lean the instrument away from the wall and use the upper corner of the instrument to cut into the facial wall and make the retentive groove. So again, whether you're using a burr or not, use the hand instrument first to make sure that you've made a very conscious decision about where you want that groove to be placed. For example, if you overextend axially for whatever reason, you get too deep axially. You may be too deep axially because there's decay and you had to move the whole axial wall. Where do you put the groove? You do not put the groove at the axial wall. You see, axial wall's not where it would be ideally. You want to put the groove indentin close to the DEJ. If you're indentin but far from the DEJ, you're probably going to hit a pulp horn. And I know that. How do I know that? Personal experience when I was a student. So I learned the hard way. Okay. All right, so a lot of times on a patient, you have to get deeper axially than you might otherwise in an ideal prep like we're doing here. So bevel the axial pulpal line angle, same as we've done before with the GMT all the way to the facial lingual walls, angle the gingival floor all the way to the facial lingual walls. Okay, this is basically all we need to do. Alright, so if you can feel the retentive grooves, if you can see the retentive grooves, then you've got retentive grooves. If you use a hand instrument and you see nothing and you feel nothing, then you haven't actually made retentive grooves. So you got to see them, you got to feel them, or else you don't have them. Okay? Alright, so we can start on the DO anytime. Okay, so you haven't really made much progress yet going gingivally, have you?
No.
So what do you think the problem is as far as going gingivally? The problem is always what you've done on the occlusal. So we can go back, see you're leading the burr like this, you're making a little tiny short wall, you don't have a very flat wall, and It's not as deep pulpally as this area over here, so you're having trouble actually getting the occlusal outline done nicely. Let's go back and try to make the occlusal outline better with the burr more vertical and make a nice long flat wall there with exactly the exit angle that we want. Then when we're ready to go gingerly, it's much easier, and it's easy to see the direction of the axial wall. Over here you're a little bit obtuse. So if we're looking for an amalgam prep, we'll want to keep it closer to 90. So take your time on the occlusal part, make sure you're happy with it before you do anything gingerly. So now we have a margin and an angle. Let's get a little more length coming in. Now we can see where the corner of the box should be right here. So you never really figured out a way to find the corner of your box on the lingual side. Now let's look this direction, and then we can start here and come all the way along the oblique ridge looking this way. So that's how I can control the precise position of that margin. I can move the burr parallel to the oblique ridge because I'm looking in the right direction. So you should have been more like this. Okay, but again, looking in the right direction is the key. Now we're going to go ahead and find the corner about right here. So that gives us the shape of the axial, finding the right position for the corner. And we can find the corner over here. And make the axial go this way, find the corner over here, make the axial go this way. Okay, so anyway, that would be the axial position here and here. You went a little bit too deep in the middle, a little bit overextended in the outline form. So now, get rid of the excess along the facial lingual walls and then along the gingival, and see if you have any gingival clearance. And you're not going to, so then you're going to have to go a little bit deeper gingially, but use these corners to go deeper gingially. All right? All right. Okay, so we still have kind of a rough gingival margin there. I was suggesting using the gingival margin trimmer and try to smooth it out. So the DO, you get some damage on the adjacent tooth though, huh? So you have the burr leaning like this, so it looks like you're still trying to peek down the axis, okay? That won't quite work. You don't have a very flat wall here. You start from your margin and cut straight in a little farther. You might get a wall that looks a little flatter. And you really want to try to get flat walls. See, this is obtuse and it's also fairly curvy. So just cut one direction and you're going to get flatter walls. And then just adjust the angles until you're happy. Again, always with the burr vertical. Okay, then that helps guide you when you go to find the corners of the box. Probably like here and maybe here. Now, the wall, the oblique ridge is not too far off. You could have been a little more conservative. You got the right idea. Again, looking this way, I could have kept the burr probably about right here. That would have been a little more conservative.
Yeah.
And then find the corners once you get the occlusal outline done. We can go a little deeper axially. And cut away from that wall and away from this wall. And look so you can see exactly where you are axially. And of course you'll also be able to see exactly how close you are to the adjacent tooth, right? So I know I'm not hitting the adjacent tooth because I can see exactly how close I am. Because I'm looking exactly the right direction.
I mean, in order to get the gingival clearance, like I'm just trying to more No, go deeper and deeper and it just.
Yeah, but don't just try to push the margin down gingerly. You're going to use the corners of the box to go deeper gingerly.
Okay.
So drill a hole in the corner, drill a hole in the corner, cut away from those walls, and then get rid of the excess. So those 7 steps work beautifully every time, any tooth, any quadrant. Okay, so I'll finish that up with hand instruments. Make sure you get good retentive grooves. Then we'll move on to the lower arch. Okay, good. Take a peek.
Start with
Okay, so you haven't finished the MO.
yeah. Like
Oh, I left
I'm
my
not at all-
mirror. Okay, I'll use your mirror at this point. So why didn't you finish the MO?
Like I just wanted to ask you about the angulation because the
Okay.
direction I don't know, like I'm not able to get the right direction.
Okay, so which angulation are you talking about?
Like for creating the gingival clearance,
What angle are you talking about?
like the 45-degree angulation.
Which angle? Define the angle for me.
Like while doing the 7 steps.
Keep the burr vertical. The only angles that we really talk about a lot are the exit angles and the facial angle proximal walls. So we're very concerned about those. So you're quite obtuse here, and you're close to 90 here, but it's not flat at all. You're not quite keeping the burr vertical, you're leaning it lingually. We really want to try to keep the burr vertical all the time. And when you go gingerly, well, how far do you go gingerly? How far do we go gingerly? We go gingerly until we get clearance.
Yeah.
Do you have any clearance?
No.
Then go farther gingerly. Okay, keep the burr vertical.
But I'm also like sitting the adjacent tooth at all.
Well, yeah. So you have to make sure you know if you are, and then stop doing it. We're going to keep the burr vertical, then recut the exit angle. Because the closer to 90 degrees we get with the exit angle, the easier it is to find the corner of the box. If you have a nice corner for the box, we use that corner to go gingerly. You drill a hole in the corner and cut away from that side. Then we get rid of the excess along that wall. And then along the gingival area right here. Notice I'm looking so I can see exactly how close the burr is to the adjacent tooth, right?
Yeah.
That's how we avoid hitting the adjacent tooth. See if we are. Pretty simple concept, huh? So now you can define your corner over here, cut away from that wall, get the shape of the axial wall you want, get rid of the excess along the facial, get rid of the excess gingerly.
So,
And you'll probably have a little bit of gingival clearance, but you'll probably have to go farther again. What's the question?
so like,
Just use words.
for example, like here in the facial wall, I have to like create a groove kind of thing.
Well, just like I did on the lingual. See the lingual? I made a nice corner for you there.
Yeah.
Now use that corner to go gingerly. On the facial side, you don't really have a well-defined corner. So, just like I did on the lingual, you find your margin, find your angle, get the length, make the curve for the occlusal, and then you go gingerly by making a corner right at that wall, and then you cut away from that wall. And then you can get the shape of the axial wall. But it's the corner that allows you to go gingerly. It's the nicely defined corner. That's what we're looking for, okay? Now, you just barely started on the DO,
Yeah.
but what are you doing here? Okay? You're rubbing the burr around a little bit. Why don't we just make a nice hole the way I described? So we're going to start by just making a hole right against the adjacent tooth right in the middle of the contact facial-lingually, just right about here. And make that hole as close as you can to the adjacent tooth. There's where we start. Then nip out facially, find your margin. Nip out lingually, find your margin. Then come in straight. Then you can come along and do the rest, but you're going to have to move pretty quickly now. We're behind schedule. Okay? Hold on a second. Okay. Okay, so we talked about the MO quite a bit already. That still looks about the same. So over here, okay, so you're hitting the adjacent tooth a lot. You don't really have the 90-degree angle here. You don't have much of an angle over here at all. So remember, on the facial side, we want to find the margin at the pulpal floor level, find the margin, find the angle, get the length. So we always do that. Find the margin, find the angle, get the length. Now, from there, I want to cut along the oblique ridge, right? I'm going to follow the central groove, this distal lingual groove. The distal lingual groove goes this way, right? So I'm going to look this direction. So I can see that I'm looking along the oblique ridge and along the distal lingual groove. So I start here, and I cut into the distal lingual groove this way. Okay? So you see I'm looking in the right direction, so I can see exactly where I'm cutting. So you should have been cutting like this. So look, you actually cut all the way up to the top of the oblique ridge. But that's a matter of looking the wrong way. If you look this way, you'll never do that. Okay? All right, so try to get closer to 90 on the lingual at the pulpal floor level.
I think I need to push the pulpal floor a bit lower because I did not get any.
So you mean the height of your wall here is not 1.5?
No. I don't see gingival clearance yet.
Well, you said pulpal floor, right?
Not the pulpal floor, the gingival.
Okay, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Pulpally, you're okay.
Okay.
The outline form, not okay, but the pulpal floor position is okay. But right now we're working on the lingual margin, the lingual 90-degree exit angle. So find the margin, find the angle, get the length, make sure you make a curve to join the isthmus. Then you can find the corner about right here. And then cut away from this wall. Do the same thing from the facial side, starting the corner here and cut away from that wall. When they come together, you'll have a little excess at the facial, lingual, and gingival walls. Get rid of the excess, looking this way when you're doing it so you know you're not going to hit the adjacent tooth anymore. And then see if you have any gingival clearance. If not, use those corners and use those 7 steps and go gingivally again. Okay? All right. Okay, it's going to be hard for me to make any changes since you have no burr, but let's see what burr I want. Okay.
Yeah, that one.
Okay, so you're doing the DO here. Probably a little deep pulpally, but it's coming along. Let's get that 55 burr.
About 1.5.
Well, we're just going to finish the prep with the 55 burr, but the wall height at the margin at the oblique ridge, right in here, is pretty tall. I think it's taller than 1.5 millimeters, so we really want to try to keep it just at 1.5 millimeters, as long as you have the outline in the right position. Okay, back to the occlusal. Let's get closer to 90 here. Let's get a little flatter here. Let's get a little more vertical here. So the flatter and straighter you can make it, then start there and just follow the oblique ridge looking this way, and go into the distal groove.
With a straight line.
Yeah, just cut straight away from your eye. So again, if you want to cut in this direction, look in that direction and cut away from your eye, and of course you'll be, by definition, cutting in the right direction. But keep the wall heights just the height of the 330 burr. So you're probably almost a millimeter too deep pulpally right there. So you could have been about this tall walls. Okay, lingually, yeah, a little obtuse. Okay, now we're going to work real hard to get nice corners. Now your internal line angle and facial is pretty good. You got a retentive groove. On the lingual, I probably would have made the internal angle a little less deep axially, which is easier to do when you have closer to 90-degree angle on the top. So now we got a corner. Probably would have had the axial going about like this. So get rid of the excess along the facial wall. Then go ahead and make a retentive groove here, not here. Here.
Okay.
Okay, so
Not in the.
you're a little bit too
in the
deep
corner.
axially. So if you're too deep axially, you don't want to put the retentive groove where the axial wall is. You want to put it where it should have been. Okay, gingerly, a little bit overextended. You got some damage on the adjacent tooth right here, huh?
Yes.
So again, you're leaning. A lot of times people tend to think, okay, if I look down this way, I can see what I need to, but you'll always hit the adjacent tooth if you try to look at all axially. Flatten the gingival floor a little bit more, all the way to the gingival margin. Then when you use a hand instrument, you'll have a nicer looking slope to the gingival floor. Okay, so you can finish this one up pretty nicely. I'm going to start talking about the lower arch in a few minutes.
Would you check my other prep?
Oh, okay. Still liking the electric?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see.
Check the other piece.
Now the deal over here, huh? Okay, so what's your opinion of this one?
The chipped corner at the lingual.
Chipped corner? Chipped where?
Gingival.
Okay, the gingival margin?
Gingival margin.
Yeah, I got a little chip down there. So is that a problem?
Yes.
Well, it's a problem if you leave it like that.
Yeah.
Now if you're doing a composite prep, it would be included in the bevel, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Okay, your gingival clearance is minimal. I think your gingival clearance is maybe 0.3, 0.35.
And then need to go to 0.5.
Yeah. When you do it, don't lean the burr into the adjacent tooth like this. Okay? If you want to get a little more control over what's happening in the lingual side, cut a little bit of a longer 90-degree angle coming inward. Try to make it as long and straight as you can before you make any curvature. Then it's easier to find a nice corner. Then get rid of the excess along the wall. Then you can smooth the gingival floor. But getting that corner defined well is the key to going gingially farther. The better definition you have for the internal line angles, the easier it is to go gingially, because it's those corners that you use to go gingially. All right, I probably would have gone a little bit more into the distal angle groove. So your wall here is a little short. So again, vertical burr, 90-degree angle, get the length in, follow the distal angle groove. And cut a little bit more into it. Make sure you get 1.5 millimeters tall wall here and all the way along here. The wall should be 1.5 millimeters tall all the way around here. So about here, into there, and then back here. Keep the wall uniform in height and about 1.5 millimeters. Just, with the 330 burr, it's easy to get that. Okay, so pretty close in this one. But practice going gingially. Each prep you do, you can go gingially 10 more times, just for the practice. Right? Well, okay, cool.
Thank you.
All right, so the MO, you never got the gingival clearance. Okay, so how quickly can we get gingival clearance? Well, if we break the burr, that's going to take a while. So I got another 55 burr. There we go. So again, new burr for every prep.
Yep.
Okay, once they start getting overheated, then it's going to get weak pretty soon. Okay, so we're going to come down the corner, make a nice hole, then cut away from this side. Make a hole over here, and cut away from this side. So down this wall and away from that wall, down this wall and away from that wall. Now all I have to do is get rid of the excess, right? So these are the steps I want you to learn how to do. Get rid of the excess along the facial, along the lingual, and then in the middle. Look this way so you know how close you are to the adjacent tooth. I know I'm not hitting the adjacent tooth now, right? I can see exactly how close the burr is to the adjacent tooth, so I know I'm not damaging it. Now we got a little bit of gingival clearance. By the time we use the gingival margin trimmer, we'll probably be okay. Those are things I want you to be paying attention to. Now over here, you have a reasonable clearance on the lingual and your exit angle is close to 90. It's not real flat. When you're keeping the burr vertical, try to make a flatter, longer wall. On the facial, it's very rough and irregular. So let's find the margin. Make sure you found the margin that's farther facially. Then cut straight in. And adjust the angle until it's 90 degrees with the burr vertical. Then what do? We're going to cut parallel to the oblique ridge, just like this. You see what you did? You cut right up to the top of the oblique ridge. So the key is to look in this direction. But make sure you have the right pulpal floor level to begin with. That's all determined by the 330 burr. So looking in this direction allows me to cut in the right direction. So now we could have been much more conservative there, couldn't we? But it's all a matter of the direction you're looking. Now, when we have nice flat walls and good angles on the facial lingual, we can decide where we want to put the corner of the box. And then drill down at each wall, and then come away from each wall and get the basic definition of the internal line angles and the shape of the axial wall. So that's what we're looking for. Then you can get rid of the excess and see if you have any gingival clearance. Get rid of the excess facially, lingually, and gingivally, just like I did over here. All right, so do that in the next few minutes.